Hey, Victor.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. Cooking a bit of lunch. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, no worries.
Tell me if this sound is not good though, because then I can get headphones.
Yep, no worries.
And you? How are you? You're wearing a jacket and a hat indoors, which would make me think that you're in Portugal, but it's not winter in Portugal yet.
No, I'm in Melbourne, Australia.
So is it also a jacket and hat indoors in winter climate?
Yeah. It gets to around about freezing, but not much lower. So it's like it can be nice, but it does get a bit chilly in the colder months. But it's started spring here, so it's starting to get nice, but we still get some frosts and all of that. So yeah.
Yeah, because it's the construction thing, right? Like I grew up in Poland in the north where you're warm indoors. But I lived in Japan and now in Portugal. So I learned that in warm climates, in winter, it's warm outside, cold indoors. So I like to joke that really you have acclimatized yourself to Portugal if you're sitting indoors with a beanie and a jacket and you don't find anything strange about this.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yep.
So yeah, cool. What shall we talk about? What's exciting in your projects and in life?
Yeah, maybe I'll give a bit of background. I'm not sure how much Andrew has told you about me and what I'm working on, but um, I you would know a lot of the people I collaborate with across the World Wide Web, Alilo, Coasis, the whole kind of D-Web, yeah, decentralized peer-to-peer, kind of like post-blockchain kind of sovereignty, post-monetary economics, all that kind of stuff. Uh, and yeah, so I'm one of the. I guess I've been in the World Wide Web since it started, and that's kind of a meta project to figure out how we can weave many of our tech projects and social projects together in order to create something that truly can meet the needs of people and help create the infrastructure to get resources and coordination and the kind of pro-social digital commons together in order to help regenerate the biosphere and kind of refactor the global socioeconomic system. All that big fun stuff, and in the day to day, that kind of looks like getting the foundations of digital sovereignty with self-sovereign identity and peer-to-peer data storage, social trust graphs, modular, composable, pro-social, kind of subjective media landscape, and pro-social commons. That's really, I think, the latest way I'm trying to describe these things. I'm not sure if you read the kind of documents that I sent on Telegram.
No,
Um,
not in that. Sorry.
that's all right. That's all right. It just kind of one framing we've had around addressing the social dilemma using some of these projects, including now Genesis and First Person Project, the Atom Layer with Coasis, and a few other technologies built on these. Um, so recently it's kind of just been, I think, since the gathering, a kind of explosion of collaboration and lots of things happening. And I really just want to connect with as many cool people um, as I can find. And yeah, Andrew recommended we get in contact because there's an aspect of what we're needing to do, which is to um, figure out how to weave narratives that allow us to transcend the artificial boundaries of um, kind of, you know, competition between projects that can lead to kind of perverse dynamics there, and figure out how we can do a kind of rethinking of, well, if we have multiple solutions for different things, how do we need to talk about, and how do we need to think about how these are confluent rather than competitive, such that we can have a true pluralism of solutions, yet still actually be able to have it be a kind of unified effort and a unified movement. So kind of tackling that at a narrative level, but also there's a lot of technical stuff we have to figure out, a lot of affordances of different ways of doing things, and without the right kind of cultural, social communication scaffolding, that becomes hard. And the story and the narrative that we tell ourselves about this is part of that. So one of the links I sent was a 3D map, which has roughly 40, 50 projects and people and organizations.
I think I scanned through the map.
Yeah.
Not in the sense I looked at it, but I went, oh, another map, lots of cool stuff. How do we get it together?
Yeah. So that's kind of the catch-22, is we need people to look at the maps and be like, oh, we need to all agree on some protocol or meta protocol in order to have it be a dynamic, interoperable, sovereign map. But unless the map to aggregate and to kind of orient everyone together, we're not going to be able to get all of the data in a way that makes sense. So trying to figure out, well, is it map first? Because some people disagree with just having databases with data that wasn't put in by the people that it represents. And then the problem with the CTA is like, well, we have the infrastructure with memorations, but it's very kind of opinionated, and also no one's doing it. So like, it's stuck between these two things. And there's a lot of that kind of problem popping up in different ways, I think, around this ecosystem. And so I've recently started writing a report with Brandon Norgard and some other folks who are looking at it, in order to kind of catalog both all the technologies we're creating in a kind of matrix of like projects against capabilities of each project, to see where the overlap and the gaps are, and then also to kind of get written down and explore and have a kind of shared dialogue around what the tensions are, what the disagreements are, and then how to kind of orient around that. So that's like very much kind of just starting and a progress, but yeah, that's like, there's a lot happening and it's quite hard to make sense of it all. I'm trying to be careful with how I speak about it, especially to people I haven't met before. But I've watched a lot of the recordings of the gatherings. I get a sense for who you are and what you're doing. So hopefully that can get a bit of a background on me as well.
Cool, great, thank you. So to give you a bit of a background on me, I mean, I started in tech. I have a degree in computer science. I spent 10 years coding for money, maybe a bit less. But and then around startups, this and that. Funnily enough, I've been hearing the conversation and everything around crypto and privacy for 30 years, because actually a few of the guys who were a few years behind me at uni, well, one of them was the thesis supervisor, because they're professors now. One of them was the thesis supervisor for Vitalik Buterin. So for 30 years, I've been hearing about privacy, and for 30 years, I've been seeing nobody give a shit. But I mean, there's important things there. I'm not saying it's not important. What I'm saying is that the go-to-market on it is much, much harder. And if nobody's cracked it for 30 years, need to really think differently than everything everybody's been doing. In general, yeah, I mean, since then I've been in startups, this and that. And then over the past 10, 12 years, I've been around the village building scene, because working in tech enabled me to escape the city. And then I was like, this is nice, but I would like to live in a community. Except my idea of community, or the community that's, I want to live in a community of my people. So people where we're having this conversation that you and I are having now around the campfire. I love the people whose dream is to grow their own vegetables. I think it's beautiful, but it's not my dream. And I want to be sitting around the campfire and living in the community and having this conversation we're having now. And I think there's more than enough of us. So, but I've been around that scene and also seen it not take off. Until COVID, arguably, maybe it was still a hard sell. But since COVID, until COVID, I would tell people remote work, it will change where people live and work. And everybody was like, remote work, you're crazy, you're in tech, won't happen here for 50 years, etc. So it's actually a really interesting life experience going from the crazy guy on the block to everybody going, yeah, well, of course, stop. So interesting. At the same time, it didn't move the narrative for real estate investment. And after 12, and I've seen, and it's not like, okay, I don't have the right contacts, I'm not doing it right, I didn't succeed. No, I'm talking to tens of projects around the world with much smarter, much better connected people than me, younger, more motivated, whatever, and they're all fucking struggling. So I'm pretty sure it's not me. And my big realization out of that is that investment flows along narratives. And until you have a narrative, you better have a rich uncle or a friend that's make it and likes you enough to put money into your project. Or you are the scraps of some government funds, this and that, but you are not in any kind of a active flow of investment in the world, right? And for me, my always dream has been not to just me grind through and build a village, but to create a world where villages are popping up everywhere. And this is a thing that happens in the world. So I kind of stepped away from that for now because I was like, somebody needs to create this investment narrative. And I was like, it's not going to be me. Right? It needs to be. And I've seen this. The reason on the flip side, on the success side, I've seen this with, for example, the co-living scene, where co-living 15, 20 years ago didn't exist. And now it's a thing. It might be small and marginal, but it's definitely a thing. People are investing in it. Like it exists in the world as an investment narrative. So I know it's possible. And of course, we've seen it with .com, AI, all kinds of tech trends, right? So this is one thing that I'm thinking about. I fully agree with everything that you said about people collaborating. This is a huge thing. So through this event, through the village building stuff, I got pulled into doing an event around regenerative village building. And then out of that, I realized that because I've been going to festivals and I love being outdoors my whole life, but I'm 53, going out, getting super high at a music festival is nice once in a while, but it doesn't really fulfill my soul. At the same time, having experienced that, I really saw the power that format has of bringing people deeply together into connection, right? At the same time, if it's random people, I'm like, okay, I go deeply bond with some random people, make some random, I'm like, I want to use this technology to exactly solve the problem that you're talking about of how do we get people closer together, because we know we need to get them closer together and build relationships to get them to collaborate. So at a very simplistic, and it's not the whole answer, but I believe one part of the answer to the question that we presented is how do we bring people together, get them collaborate, is create more opportunities for them to sit together around a campfire or be on the dance floor together or go hiking or, especially if it's men, give them more opportunities to sweat and be physically tired together. Because this is how men bond. For women, it's somewhat different, but so that's one part of it. The other thing, we also need to create new structures. So for me, a part of, and first of all, with the 30 years looking at crypto, and then in 2008, when there was the crash, I went down the monetary systems rabbit hole. Except for me, when I go into a scene, I'm like, what's the research? What are the smart people saying? And I realized that for 100 years, literally, I have the pamphlet from Hayek that are talking about better money and all of this, and nothing has ever shifted because it's a fundamental pillar of power of the nation state. And I looked at that and I was like, oh, for 100 years, people much smarter than me have been trying to do something here. Nothing has changed. I don't think I'm going to move this one. That's why I was always skeptical of crypto. And for me, actually, crypto is a perfect example of how you can fail completely while succeeding.
Yep.
Because in terms of impact on the general life of the proletariat or average people, the impact is zero. Sure, a new class of random rich white bros got rich. Great, good for them. But societal impact is zero. At the same time, I mean, they've shown that you can create, again, an investment narrative and also the kind of resources that you need. I was just looking at because of course a bunch of my friends went down that direction. My friend is like, oh, I'm in this monad something ecosystem, new level 1 blockchain, da da da. And yeah, they're like 200 million or something. They have a 50 or 60 million fund for ventures to fund people to build shit on their technology. Right? So this is one part of the narrative I'm trying to get out into the world. After 30 years of seeing all kinds of amazing, wonderful, technologically brilliant, ideologically smart, yet completely no ability to get out into the world technologies, right? We need to really think of the go-to-market problem. Getting this into people's hands is the problem. And it's really hard. I was also a technologist. It got me, it's a long, but there's been so many beautiful technologies, collaboration, this, that, and they haven't gotten out into the world because people were focused on the technological problems, not on the fundamental question of how do we get this into people's hands. So I'm trying to get out into the world, not because I believe I'm a guru and I can plan this, but as a provocation. Let's start having a conversation of what will it take to get 1 billion users into this ecosystem. Not onto one mega super app, but into this ecosystem of interoperable apps that we're talking about. What is the journey that we would need to go on to have 1 billion users using it? And on the one hand, it might sound like, oh, 1 billion is such a big number. Facebook has like 2 billion something users or 1.8 or something. There's 6 or 7 billion smartphones in the world. Yep. And if you look at the people for whom the system is not working, right? The people in the refugee camps, the people in the ghettos, in the favelas, the freelancers. In our world, the freelancers, the people who don't have a job, but are working on multiple projects, this and that, the people for whom the system as it's structured now doesn't work. That adds up to well more than 1 billion people. So I think this is one conversation I really would love to have this ecosystem to have. Another idea I'm putting out there is this idea of coherence, right? And the way I'm trying to frame it is, I don't believe we need, outside of protocols, but in general, we don't need unity. Or if we strive for alignment, that's so easily thanks to one ideology to rule them all, right? I am really inspired by the forest. The forest makes weather. You know, Amazon controls climate on 1/4 of the globe. And yet there isn't any jaguar going around, you know, orchestrating and telling everybody what to do. I don't know what that means in practice, but again, I think it's a really important, it's a really interesting way of looking, right? Of a question to ask, right? What will it mean for humans to really organize like the forest? Not top down under one ideology, but bottom up, everybody doing their own thing, and yet at the same time contributing to the larger ecosystem. So I think continuing to answer the thread that you said, how do we get people to collaborate better? We need to get them to talk to each other and know about each other more. and better. We need to take them through conversations which enable them to build relationships, right? Because not everybody should work with everybody. That's fine. I'm not searching, if there's 10 people in a room, I don't care. If 3 walk out with a strong collaboration, that's success. The other 7 can try again and find the people that's important to them. So don't go down the green meme, kumbaya, we're all beautiful, we should all work together. No. Let's emerge islands where people have the people that they can work deeply together with, right? And competition is good, but maybe we don't need 10 projects doing the same thing. Maybe 2 or 3 is enough. Trying to squeeze it all into one, aside from technological or other things, just at a human level won't work, and a degree of competition is nice. Just not competition because people didn't talk to each other and didn't know about each other. That's just stupid, right? So the coordination problem, and the interesting thing is, there we have a lot of complaints about how the world sucks and it doesn't love us and give us resources. But most of us are living in the Western or in the free world, and there are no barriers to coordination for us. It's not true ever in the world. For example, I talked to a change maker in Iran, and she said, I can't do my work anymore because when I go out into the countryside and I gather the women, people think I'm doing an anti-government rally and I could go to jail. That's not true for any of us. So the fact that we aren't coordinated and collaborated better is entirely on us. And I would like the last thing that I would love to throw in there, something that I am really seeing in our future as really important, is to experiment more with different organizational forms. I think we need to bring guilds back, for example, so people have elders, mentors, apprenticeship system. We need tribes, we need sanghas, we need, all kinds of different cross-organizational collaborations. So that's another thing that's really disappointing with the crypto world. They took not even the modern, they took the fucking 19th century world model of a corporation, East India Company, and made it digital. And I'm like, so yeah, that's kind of the set of ideas I'm playing with and trying to put out into the world.
So what do you see as the immediate challenges that this particular quite close ecosystem, and I'm speaking to, RegenOS, Alilo, Coasis, World Wide Web, these kind of very sovereign data pro-social apps are orienting towards, because there's a lot of there's a lot of us trying to break down or trying to I think open up organizational pathways in order to create better communication flows through the membranes that already exist, that are really just only membranes because of either differences in communication style or mediums or time zones or just general approach. And it's not that there hasn't been, because there has been, like, everyone's aware of everyone else and what's going on, but it's more, I think, that there is
I'm sorry, permit me to disagree. I think people are not aware, at least in the spaces. How many people are working on Gaia AI? I mean, every week I seem to come up across another Gaia AI, and I haven't even started searching on the internet. So many people are aware of many things, but not everybody to everybody. like, for example, I wanted to ask you, since you're deep into tech, what do you think of anytype.io?
N-type?
Any.
Any.
Because they're deep in this space, and it sounds like they're doing very much what you guys are talking about. Ruben from Alelo mentioned he's heard about them, but he's not talking. And it sounds very much, they're doing very much like what what Ruben is talking about, but they've been at this for a few years. I don't know how many millions or tens of millions of funding they've chewed through. Yeah, but it's just a simple example of something that sounds very similar, but people aren't talking to each other.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like every day I come across multiple more projects, right? And yeah, I mean, I know some people who are collating lists, and the lists are now in the hundreds, maybe the thousands of these kinds of things that are doing something around peer-to-peer or pro-social, modular, composable stuff. Yeah, all this sort of stuff. What I don't see is there's a couple scopes, right? There's kind of the whole ecosystem of everything that's approaching this same orientation of decentralized sovereign tech, and you can either include blockchain or non-blockchain stuff there. And then there's, I think, a lot of different pockets of more or less closer communication between projects that have links, and or at least have knowledge of other aspect of the whole ecosystem. And I mean, that's just incredibly hard to map, because again, there's not even that there's a protocol for mapping this, but there's not even an awareness of all of the protocols that are mapping it. So I think it is like a large part of it is wandering through the fog and just bumping into stuff, and that's something has to change there. I'm even just trying to like limit the scope of what we want to talk about, what we want to focus on, to like what we do have an actual relationality with, which is why I name Alilo and RegenOS and World Wide Web and DWeb and these things, because they seem to have the strongest connections from what I'm aware of. And everyone's gonna have a different perspective of what is kind of closer in the tightly connected networks we have. So there's some level of fuzziness around it, but I think there is a strong attractor around the World Wide Web and Alilo and Coasis and RegenOS that is forming. It's some kind of coalition that has a few of these nodes that are deeply connected, and so that's kind of what I've been trying to build a kind of catalog and report on. And I think that we just can't reach out to every project. We can't ever. I don't think we can. You can't see the whole forest while walking through it, right? While being in the forest, and you shouldn't have to know about every plant and bug and moss and mycelia, because that's not the point. So I think more of it is that we want to figure out how to have coherence as our close ecosystem of, let's say, a kind of Dunbar number of either projects or even people, where the number of organizations is like 5 or 6, because that should have enough dynamicism and variance, but also a huge amount of connections beyond that, like 10,000 people, right? Of like immediate, like actual relationality. So if we can create a pattern that works for us, we can then go and present that to others as an extension to collaborate. And this is what I've kind of seen the Collaborative Tech Alliance try to do, and what I've seen Memorations try to approach, but it hasn't quite caught yet. And I think most people are either just unwilling or uninterested in actually even trying it, because there are either competing alternatives or just no actual coherent narrative around why we need to do this, even though I think most people are aware, even consciously, that there is some beacon that needs to kind of emerge, and to have this kind of network graph. So again, that's catch-22. But yeah, and there's the narrative piece there. So a part of it is defining the scope of what we even are talking about, because every person I talk to has a different scope of either technology, narrative, or ecosystem, or problems they're trying to solve. And that's just a thing that I think is hard to communicate, especially when we have so many conversations and everyone, even within organizations, has a different scope that they're focusing on. So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for me, and again, you know, I'm a technologist, though I did take an MBA, but that just made me resent the system more. It's about the money. So when I was talking about this, I believe we need an explosion of different forms of collaboration. There's one which I'm trying to get out into the world called the venture family. So creating a deep coalition of a number of these companies, which then go out and fundraise together as a portfolio. To me, it's clear that until there is money and serious, you know, and until there is money for the commons, for the shared work, for the collaboration, for the protocols, for the integration and all of this, until it's connected with the money and the financial flows, it will just not really make it high enough up people. It's because, you know, everybody's busy. Also, I really, you know, that's why I talked about this investment narrative piece. I think we need to create and work towards building an investment narrative. That was my that's my hidden dream behind RegenOS as a brand, is that this becomes an investment narrative. And then system investors, governments, etc., are like, oh, you know, what are we doing in the RegenOS space? The big picture, I mean, I only have vague ideas about it, but the concrete idea of getting, like you said, a small number of 5, 7 to start maybe companies that have products which are technologically interoperable, business-wise compatible, where the humans involved are collaboration compatible, and go out and fundraise together as a portfolio. Because money is a key resource. If everybody is going out and doing their own little thing,
Yeah,
it's less impressive. And then it's the standard thing of divided we fall. So how do we find a way to start uniting, and uniting in a practicable way, which leads to funding? And also, which leads to funding, not just the little bits now, but which has on its roadmap the 100 million, the 200 million fundraise, because that's what it takes to build a fucking ecosystem, right? I mean, and this is where crypto is interesting. I haven't done any research, but it would be interesting, right? They know how long it takes to get a level 1 blockchain up. That's the level of money that we need to be looking at.
What are the questions that this, you know, close community needs to be asking itself, and how does it ask itself this question in a way that does come to a consensus, such that it can be actionable? Because I know that Ruben and Alilo have a lot of opinions on what they're doing, and other parts have very different approaches. Like Coasis did a whole coin thing around the synergy engine, and they have obligations there, and then there's a lot of just nuance and opportunities that usually fall short of raising enough money, like Newcoin and these kind of extraneous projects that are all aligned, but not quite part of the immediate scope of what I think most people are focusing on. So, yeah, I mean, it does feel kind of like stuck until we get the money, but also we need to cohere in order to figure out how the money makes sense and how to steward it and how to have it not pervert what we're doing. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like these conversations sometimes do get stuck in a kind of local minimum of talking about, like, well, yeah, we just need the money, or we just need to agree on a particular protocol, or we just need to agree on someone to lead it, or someone to organize, or write it all up, or cohere everything, or create an event to get everyone together.
One of my favorite quotes is from Daniel Schmachtenberger. The answer to all of the problems is all of the solutions.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what does it look like to be able to hold that problem and solution set collectively in a way that is coherent, right?
So I think from my side, right, I do not in any way claim to have all of the answers. And I think it's the answer to all of the problems is all of the solutions. The parts of the mosaic which I hold, which I think are important, is one, I think we need consistent work on the grand narrative and the journey to the grand narrative. I'm not interested in a utopia story of, and this is like my pet peeve of all of the tech people, the whole world, when the whole world uses my platform, it's all going to be so wonderful. I'm like, yeah, great. I've been hearing this for 30 years. Tell me step by step, what is the journey from where we are today to the whole world using your platform? That's the part that I'm interested in. So the grand, I think building a grand narrative, not just as an ultimate destination, oh, global gift economy. And I'm like, I don't know how the guy digging lithium in Congo is going to give the lithium to the guy in China who's making my iPhone. I just don't see it. Maybe I'm stupid. Show me the path step by step. So, and I think that will also help with the unification, because sometimes seeing the grand narrative, in 100 years, we want to bring this society to this. This is the journey that we need to take it. Oh, yeah, okay. So, it's, at least for me, that's how my brain works. So that's one part of it. More in-person gatherings, I'm working on that. I'm working on this coherence thing. So, we need to use collective intelligence to create not maps of nodes, but maps of relationships, right? I don't want to know about the 50 projects you know about. I want to know about the 5 which are relevant to me, which if you like me, you have enough clout and reputation to go and get me a conversation with the leader, right? Because I have 6,500 connections on LinkedIn. I don't need more nodes. Yeah. I need the metadata on the relationships with an AI that helps me action it. And then the other thing is to really bring in the money people and connect and look at the ambitious, and for me, it connects with the grand narrative, the ambitious fundraising paths that will really, what is the funds? And it's like, oh, we'll make the first prototype for 100,000 and it will just take off and everybody will pay 10 euros a month. And I'm like, no, I don't see it. I don't see any tech company that's rolled out that way in the last. So those are the pieces that I see. The thing what I am excited about also is another key blind spot of these systems change movements is that they're very often they're very myopic in terms of how they look at the world and the problem space. For example, this whole portable private sovereign data, I really do not believe consumers will ever give enough of a shit for that to be a big business. But if you look at medical records, hallelujah, there's hundreds of billions of market of that globally. Everybody has a problem. It's totally fucked. Nobody knows how to deal with it. It's a massive market. But most of the techies in this world, they're just not their world. They, corporate government, fuck corporate, fuck government, right? But that's where the money is, right? And then the other thing, if you want a little bit more friendly, this spring I went to the Systemic Investment Summit in London. First time I've been in this world. Very nice people, very open, everybody super friendly, having conversations like this, except they're moving tens to hundreds of billions. Right? There were, I don't know, just like 2 trillion assets under management represented. Right? So let's try and think of how are the solutions and they're looking, and these are not people like investing in VC or just giving money away. They're looking at whole ecosystems, right? Financial flow orchestration is a big conversation, right? Because if I have billions or tens of billions, I have some philanthropy, I have some for high profit, some for low profit, How do I invest all of this and my friends also in a particular space so that it benefits the most? Right? These are the kinds of problems where the kinds of solutions we're working on would really fit in, right? How do we build solutions for the systemic investing market? And, don't go into, the other problem is people who go into ideology. Oh, but they're 98% pure, but 2% not pure, so I won't talk to them. So those are, I think, some opportunity areas that I see.
Yeah, I'm not sure where to go from here. It's all really good.
So concrete things that I have is I would love to share the venture family idea with you and just to put into your head and you can play with it and start thinking about, how can we build better forms for fundraising for multiple projects? I'm very curious of what you think of Anytype, because I'd love to connect them with our people in our ecosystem, because not the leaders, but two friends are, one is a developer and another is the marketing person. And then Andrew is doing this regenerative OS summit. So let's support him in that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to be. I already have started helping Andrew map out the ecosystem that he's seeing, which should help. And yeah, I mean, what you were saying about mapping relationships and making that be as useful as possible is something I've thought a lot about. Again, it just comes down to creating an attractor that allows people to actually feel like this is something that's worth their time, because that's the catch-22. No one's going to do it, and that data doesn't exist, and you can't scrape it, and you shouldn't scrape it. But until it has proven its worth, no one's going to use it. So some narrative weaving has to be done there. And
that's where I'm working on this coherence project, where I think
yeah,
the best way to get data is to get people into conversation with each other. Like this conversation we had today. I mean, the
yeah.
AI is there. If you're up for it, we could publish it. I think it was very rich. And even if only a few people watch it, that's, a few
Yeah.
more people that benefit that weren't on this call.
Yeah. What do you think about Project Liminality, what David Rugg's doing, the Interbrain?
I mean, I glanced at it, but I mean, in general, because I'm not so deep in the tech, I understand the big trends. So I'm waiting for people that are more into tech to tell me and start using it and pull me into a project using it, and then I'll see it in real life.
Yeah. Yeah. It is its own project. And yeah, I mean, yeah. There's like a 45-minute video that was released about 6 months ago that really encapsulates all of it, and he's got most of it working now. So I think some of these things are yet to come online, particularly the Synergy engine at Coasis, Project Liminality, Holons, and then the
What
whole
is the
thing.
synergy engine?
That is what do you know Nicholas Luck, Nico of Coasis, the Atom layer?
Not sure.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, his technology is pretty incredible. He comes from the Holochain crowd. In 2020, he kind of like
Yeah,
left to go work on his
speaking
own
of
thing.
projects, which I had a whole chunk of my dreams and hopes hanging on for years.
Everyone says this, and yes, Holochain has taken longer than they thought, but it works now. I've been playing around with the Atom layer, which uses Holochain, and it works, and it's working great. It's not feature complete. It's still in beta, but it works well enough that you can build apps on it that work at scale. And that's there, and there's a lot of these things that are actually that have been promising, that have been that they could do all these great things, and they actually are starting to come online now. So that's also part of what I'm trying to map and to kind of get an awareness out to people of where the projects are at, and for people to be more diligent about keeping up with this. So that's one of the hard parts there. And Holons is another one, which has, I mean, all the conversations I listened to at the gathering, it's like, oh, Holons is like the economic and the kind of social structure, infrastructure that allows you to create holonic structures for anything, people, organizations, projects, communities. That's what it does. It creates a structure for anything that is able to correlate different holons with different holons, and they have that. Currently, it's on Telegram and Ethereum, but they're wanting to move to Atom, and they're all in the liminal village right now, making that happen. So I think part of it is over the next, like 3 to 6 months, we'll see a lot of these things actually be ready to use. And that's why I'm trying to figure out how to minimize the ambiguity and the multiple competing narratives within just this tight ecosystem of people who are pointing at each other, but not quite able to really communicate in the way they need to yet. And yeah, that brings us back to this mapping effort. So hopefully that can just allow more of this to emerge. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I think one thing which we should work towards is takeover of the crypto movement, because they have money and no ideas.
What time scale do you see for that? Like 1 year, 3 years,
5,
10
10
years?
years. I mean, yeah, I'm more focused right now on creating more coherence in our world and creating a shared narrative, because there's also a lot of, a key belief is that in order to make genuine progress, we need a spiritual, cultural consciousness evolution to go hand in hand with technological evolution. I had a real epiphany watching a documentary about Palantir, Palantir, the dark side. And there's a guy from Palantir who said, look, Palantir looked at the world and they went, this democracy stuff, it's complicated, it's messy, it's pain in the ass. We're just going to control the technology stack and guide society that way. And I was like, hallelujah, they get it. I mean, clearly I don't believe, I'm not aligned with the direction they would like to take society. But their realization that technology is guiding society, it's starting to come through in AI. But I think it's a narrative which we really need to blow up and amplify.
That's the whole premise of the World Wide Web, to create technology and social processes that co-evolve and compound in the direction of wisdom, right?
Yeah, which is brilliant, which is why we need the people talking about wisdom deeply embedded in the whole narrative spinning and conversation. So, for example, for me, I'm a huge fan of John Vervaeke. He talks a lot about wisdom. He's also managed to unify mysticism, spirituality, and cognitive science, i.e., no more division between religion, spirituality, and science, and a bunch of other things. But there is a whole world of these wise men who are alive today, who we need to find and create the vessels that they are part of our conversations and that we are doing this together with them. Because also another key idea that I'm sitting with and working with, my dream is of participating and supporting the creation of technologies which go out into the world at large as it is now, and piece by piece shift it in the direction that we dream of. Right? And this is very different because many people are so afraid of ideological purity that they avoid interaction and contact with corporate, with government, with mainstream, with people on the bus, whatever, because they're afraid of their ideological purity. And I see that, but I want to build and be part of building something which is so internally integral in the way it's built and designed that it will shift the things that it comes in contact with. not by force, but just naturally showing that it's the easiest way.
Yeah, I get that. I feel like there's a lot of big picture stuff and a lot of very small, immediate stuff that is hard to see the time horizon of. Because right now I'm really trying to like act day to day to figure out what is maximally useful to the people I'm already in conversation with, and 1 degree of separation away with, such that we can continue to weave the right communication pathways between the pieces that we see here. Because I think everyone has a sense of what this grand narrative is, and we all do speak different languages, such that it's hard, because we have different values and potentially different ideologies, that it's hard to have a sense that we do share this this grand narrative, even though we all obviously do. So yeah, part of it is like recompressing that long, like 10 to 100 year time scale back down into the meaningfulness of what we're doing day to day in the next 3 months, in the next 12 months, in a way that is oriented towards each person's own perspective of what that is and their own reinterpretation. So yeah, and I get that a lot of that is the stuff in person, but like I'm in Australia, it's just like I have to travel on a plane for like 24 hours to get to Europe. So like I'm just not going to be there often, if at all.
No, I mean,
So like,
it's
yeah,
just one part of it. And also, it's about creating islands of coherence. You have people where you
yeah,
are, right? So you can create the
yeah,
island there, and then we need to figure out how to better share out from those in-person physical islands of, because we will never get everybody into one big festival. That's just not happening. But we have these digital tools. This is also something I'm spending a lot of my day thinking about. How do we use digital tools to better enable in-person
yeah.
gatherings, contacts, meetings, etc.? So, yeah. But I think, yeah. So, I two concrete things: more metadata and more meaningful connections, or think about the balance of time invested in just adding more nodes to the map versus creating more meta meaningful relationships on the nodes that you have. That's one. And I'm not saying one is more completely right. The other, we need both, but how do we balance the time?
Yeah.
So it's not just stamp collecting, but it's actually building an ecosystem. Then there's the coherence journey stuff I'll share with you, of how do we take people from connection to building a relationship to finding the people where collaborations can happen. And my next call is here. I'm sure it's an amazing person. We can do a connection. And then I'll just leave. Lee. There you go. Lee is part of the person spreading the thing. We'll get into an elevator pitch in a second. But what I wanted to say is, the other thing is, think about creating pools of shared resources of funding. So my idea is fundraising, because, okay, we fundraise 10 million together. We spend 1 million on ecosystem resources, meetings, easy. Versus give me 10% of your money that you've managed to squeeze out of the world so we can do this together. Very different.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. All right. I don't want to take up any more of your next call.
But Lee is super cool. Let's make the connection. Lee, are you there?
I'm here.
Hello.
We're exactly talking about how do we interconnect, unfuck the world, and all of that. So maybe you can do a elevator pitch of the project that you're working on. Josh is deep into tech, World Wide Web, all of those amazing things, building tech for a better future. So he's very technical. You can rely on that.
Cool. So I am building a decentralized media distribution platform for regenerative content to get stories of solutions and hope out to the world to change the narrative and inspire action. That's the description of what I'm doing. It's all like using existing people's content, finding amazing projects and people, creating videos, podcasts, written any media type. We use RSS feeds, ingest the feed, and then we publish it on partner platforms, websites, communities, from Slack to Circle to Mighty Networks to Telegram to as many places as possible. So we like the invisible distribution mechanism underneath. We're not like front facing.
Yeah, awesome. What peer-to-peer tech are you using?
We're building our own software.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, cool. I guess my elevator pitch is there's a few things. I've been in tech for 5 years. Started a company that was acquired and then made redundant. So kind of a failed startup in the 3D tech world, doing kind of create a 3D engine that runs in the browser. It's still going. It's open source, but it's kind of under maintenance right now as a project. It's a whole story for another time. But the thing I'm focusing on right now is trying to weave together enough projects that are trying to solve sovereign identity, decentralized peer-to-peer data, social trust graphs, and modular composable perspectival app ecosystems that all run on a decentralized, portable, sovereign foundational layer, all built on web standards. And right now, I'm trying to map the